What's up, YouTube land? That Weird Collector here. Now, I've said this many times, but I am a Power Ranger fan. Have been one since I was probably almost 1 year old. Dang it. Thing keeps going off beside me. But in my opinion, an integral part to any Power Ranger collector's toy collection is the Morpher. I mean, it's the source of the power. You can't really be a Power Ranger without your Morpher. And by far, there are some really cool morph designs, and that's why I'm here to count down my top 10 favorite morphers. So, one of them just doesn't like to shut up. But here, this is just my opinion on my morphers. There are a few things I'm basing it off, such as both Sentai and Power Rangers. So I'm not just discounting either of them. The importance to the Morpher is to the show. So, like, are the Rangers like having to defend their powers every episode or so? Probably not every episode, but something like that. The morph sequence. So, like, the basically the hand motion the Rangers use to activate their morphers, which is 2 points. Whether basically I like it, and also how recreatable it is for somebody without training. Somebody just picks up the toy and can recreate the show. And the gimmick of said toy or prop in the show. So basically my rules. So number 10 is this little guy, the Robo Morpher / Leon Cellular from Power Rangers Megaforce or Tenso Sentai Gosei. Now, this basically almost doesn't count as a morpher. I had to turn it on. But basically, the morpher is designed to take a regular person from being unable to fight to an armored state. Some say it's spandex, but they're a state where they can fight the bad guys. Now, if you're already in that state, such as Robo Knight is, then that basically renders this thing kind of pointless. Really, the only thing it does is take him from his armored mode to his giant Zord mode, which, as cool as it is still kind of stupid, because I'd rather have him as just a regular guy use this to turn into Robo Knight. That was a lot cooler. That would have been a lot cooler if Megaforce did that instead of just going straight from what Gosei did, where he was just a robot turned into a Zord. But yeah, so that kind of ruins this guy, and he's also kind of a crappy toy. At least the American version is, compared to what the rest of the Gosei got, which was a full card scanner, and all this thing does is you press buttons, and basically he's here because there is a number 10 slot, so he'd be the worst one I own, and therefore he is number 10. So next up, number 9 is this guy, the Shift Changer from Engine Sentai Covo Changer or Power Rangers RPM, the Robo Morpher. There, I remember the name. This guy gets a spot on my list, basically kind of out of nostalgia. I had the American version as a kid, and I loved it, so there's marks for that. But honestly, the gimmick is kind of ruins the toy, because this thing has no sounds. All the sounds are in the change soul, or the engine souls. So, as cool as this thing looks, to step up from the main 3 Go-Onger's transformation device, it's kind of, there's nothing to it as a toy other than just looks. So it really can't recreate much from the show. Gets points for the morphing sequence being kind of cool and ridiculous at the same time. And honestly, I think it wins for RPM, because RPM was completely different. And although they had a hard time adapting the Sentai, which was really silly with talking vehicles with eyes, I think they really did a good job on handling how they did and really turning down the silliness. And he gets number 9. So number 8 is, it's the Covo Changer from Russia Sentai Tokuger, yet to be adapted into Power Rangers. And it gets a spot on my list. Dude, it's just looking cool. There's the voice to the side. Say hi.
That name no longer appeals to me. I am now known as Ace.
And just go check out his channel if you want more top 10s with Pokemon. But getting back to the Covo Changer, it is actually kind of cool. The gimmick of trains is kind of fun. I've never been the biggest train person, but I still like the idea. And another thing that gives points is use in the show. My favorite thing is the feature that allows them to transfer trains between each other. One character yells at them that it's not a toy feature, and I found that highly amusing that it is an actual toy feature, and they decided to just go straight forward with that. But the gimmick's kind of cool. Kind of like stopping a train, or LEDs are over here, but there are much cooler ones on this list, which is why it kind of falls into number 8. So number 7 is the Covo Changer from Covo Sentai Changer, or more known as the Mercury Morpher from Power Rangers Operation Overdrive. And it kind of falls in the same thing of being like on the list, but there are much cooler ones, which is why it's so low. But a couple of things that fault this thing are the morph sequence, which is basically just flailing your arms around and touching a button. But it falls in the same kind of thing as Time Force did with their main 5 morphing sequence, where it was just you swing your arms and then you touch the morpher or just a random button, which, as cool as it looks on TV, is incredibly hard to replicate for, say, the random toy buyer. Design-wise, looks cool. I do love the suit design of Boken Silver, or the Mercury Ranger. Sounds, it definitely provides on all the sounds you expect it to, but also it falls when you compare it to what the main 5 Bokengers got, which was basically a cell phone that you just spin on your arm, which is very simplistic, and it worked. So this thing seems overly complex when you compare it. But I do like the sliding thing, and also this just may be a toy thing, but this one just doesn't shut up if you leave it on. It constantly beeps every few seconds, which can be annoying for constant play when you just want to be like, hey, I'm a Power Ranger. So there's number 7. And number 6 is the Gosei Morpher from Power Rangers Megaforce, or the Tensoder in Gosei. Now, the other thing I am, besides a toy collector, is a card collector. I absolutely love cards. And when I heard they were bringing in Power Ranger series where the main gimmick is cards, I was all aboard that. I have a giant binder full of almost every Power Ranger card that was released, and everyone I could find. Because, God, they got hard to find once the line was ready to close. But here is the Tensoder, and it is a giant face, which is kind of freaky, but also really cool. And it gets points for, in the show, it's their communicator, it's the source of their powers, and it's also the source of the card gimmick. I really like that. But why it's so low on the list is mostly just toy, really. It doesn't have an off button. I really can't turn it off. It's either on the demo for the kids to play in the store or the TCG mode. And the fact that it makes villain sounds, and it's probably the only Morpher to make villain sounds, is good enough reason to me to put it on this list. So, number 5 is the Power Morpher. The Power Morpher. Now, what kind of fan would I be if I didn't include the Power Morpher somewhere on the list? Obviously, it can't be number 1 because I'm just going to get comments saying, "Oh, you're just an MMPR fan. All you know is Mighty Morphin," and that's essentially why it's at number 5 for nostalgic reasons, and it's just plain awesome. Now, the Power Rangers, the original ones, constantly had to defend their powers, whether Rita was trying to steal their coins or strip them of their powers. That's what I think made the Power Rangers cool. Now looking back at it, is they always, even though they won, they had to defend their powers constantly, and that I think made the powers cooler. And it's also a belt buckle, which is kind of weird when Mighty Morphin decided they were on their backs, so essentially they had to take their morphers out of their butts. But I also have the Green Morpher, Green Rangers, and I think the Green Rangers saga put more emphasis on the powers themselves than the regular 5 did, because almost all the time the Green Ranger was either losing his powers, or his powers were trying to be taken, or they're just like, or you're trying to get his powers back, which made this thing even more cool, and was a shame Bandai never gave us a release back in '93. Still piss off fans today. If I had to pick, I'd probably go with gold. Gold looks cool. And also, it's just a cool morph design in general. So, number 5 is the Power Morpher. So, number 4 is, it's the Gong Changer from Juken Sentai Geki Ranger, or the Wolf Morpher from Power Rangers Jungle Fury. And I'll give credit to any man who's willing to wear purple and be such a badass as Geki Violet. I mean, frankly, I'm not willing to wear purple, but I'm only wearing a purple Morpher. And this thing is just awesome. From the sounds being boxing themed, which I love martial arts myself, so the first transformation and fight from Geki Violet was way better than the Wolf Ranger, in my opinion. The Geki Violet actually summoned a boxing ring and started kickboxing people, where the Wolf Ranger just elbowed and kneed them, which is not as cool, in my opinion. It's a giant wolf head that turns into a bell for a boxing match, which is awesome. The only detriment and why it's number 4 is because it's motion activated. So you can't really be like just walking around and have this thing on without it going off and weirding people out on the sidewalk. But I also love the action feature of this, the hitting the bell to transform, and that is why it's number 4. So, number 3 is the Dino Charge Morpher from Power Rangers Dino Charge, or the Gabble Revolver from Juden Sentai Kyoryuger. So, I forgot one thing, which was there are at least 3 types of Morphers. There's wrist mounted, cell phones, or there's like regular devices like cell phone or a wand and things like that. And there are also weapon morphers. And that's where the Dino Charge Morpher fits in this top 10 list. It's a gun. And basically, I love guns. And it's one of, I think, only like 2 or 3 weapon changers. The first one that I can recollect was Bullblock's sword in Ginga Man, the Japanese adaptation of from where Lost Galaxy came from. It's like the Magna Defender. His sword was a transformation device in Japan, which was really cool. He didn't wear a wrist-mounted morpher like the Magna Defender, but still, weapons are cool. And the fact that you can morph with your morpher and then keep fighting with it instead of like this thing, which will just disappear in a second, or in some cases, like the in-space suit, their morphers just disappeared when they were in their morph state. So that kind of gives bonus points to this. I don't know if you can tell, but I customized mine to make it more show accurate. The gimmick, which I don't have here, is really cool. You spin the barrel, well, you insert a battery, you spin the barrel, and you dance. Just as upbeat and funny as Power Rangers is, sometimes it's a comedy show, they never dance. It happened to be the Kyojers that are the only ones that danced, and the gimmick was removed when it was brought over to America, which kind of sucks, but it makes me love Kyoger even more. The spinning of this to recreate like a revolver really appeals to me, and basically, even though this is the American version, it can still stand up to the Japanese one, even because I couldn't bring myself to spend $100 on a gun, on a plastic gun toy for some reason. But this guy, number 3. So, number 2 is the Gokai Mobirates. Sorry, I was thinking of the Silver Rangers, Gokai Cellular. This is the Mobirates from Gokaiger. Kaizo Sentai Gokaiger. The name almost escaped me. Or the Super Mega Morpher from Power Rangers Super Mega Force. And I know people like to hate on cell phones because, oh, they just look like a regular everyday device somebody could have, and they don't want Power Rangers to have those devices, but I don't think anybody has a cell phone like this. So I love it. It's a cell phone. The American version honestly doesn't get points for me. It's very, very weak, but I've had this thing for a while and I love it. In the show, this thing wasn't as important as much as the gimmick was important. The Ranger keys held the powers of every single Super Sentai previous, and they were also leading the pirates to their designated treasure, which I really think is cool. And as evidenced by this giant bag of keys, I was really into the gimmick. I have no idea why, but something about this gimmick, and just twisting a key, had me sold from the moment I got it. So the only thing really keeping it back from the number 1 spot is the morph sequence, which is hard to recreate. At least the Gokaigers, when they're not in their morphed form, their hand movement is really hard to recreate. But there's number 2, the Mobirates. And number 1, it's the Morph Embrace from Tokumei Sentai Go Busters. Supposedly not going to get a Power Rangers adaptation, which is a great shame. Now, everything this toy does makes it number 1, from the action feat, the morph sequence with the flipping of the sunglasses, being easily recreatable, to all the sounds this thing makes a lot of sounds, to how it's used in the show to be like a communication device. You can spy on people, which I love because the Go Busters were essentially spies. It was really cool. And just the toy itself makes it #1. This thing I absolutely love, although I don't particularly care for the power-up item, but that says nothing about the Morph Embrace itself. The fact that you don't need anything else, no external gimmicks to get every single sound this thing makes, is just unheard of, really. Almost every Morpher nowadays needs a gimmick, and for this thing to still stand up 3 years later without an external gimmick makes it #1. So, thanks for watching. As always, you can check out the rest of my videos. You can check out Ace's videos for Pokemon related things. And there goes a train. So with that, bye bye.